All right, we're going to start up in about a minute. And a few more people sign on. All right, we're going to start up because I like to start on time and we have some people on. This is great. And we will, a bunch more people just came on. So I think we're good to start. So everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight's topic, we will be speaking about cold weather staples. So it's a pretty light topic. I know the past few months we've had some more heavy, more science heavy topics, but I think for this time of year, it's really important to speak about what are things that we should be having at home, especially here. I'm in New York. The weather's definitely pretty frosty, and everybody just wants to make sure they have the right things at home, right? So, and here at Fair Meals, we're all about, health, ease, and affordability. So all of the things that we're going to talk about tonight are going to fall under those three umbrellas of health, ease, and affordability. So before I introduce our moderator tonight, Shira, I'm just going to introduce myself, Fair Meals, and tell you guys a little bit about Shira, and then she'll speak as well. So about Fair Meals. So we're a free online platform offering families healthy, simple, and affordable meal solutions. We are a 501c3 status nonprofit. Our mission is to empower families with the nutrition education, step-by-step recipes, and budget planning to make meals healthy, easy, and affordable. And our vision is to help combat America's chronic disease crisis by making healthy food an option for every family. My name is Ariel Kestenbaum. For those of you who are new here, I am the founder, the executive director of Fair Meals. I founded Fair Meals to really offer nutritional guidance and easy recipes that empower families to eat well on a budget. I received my master's of nutrition and dietetics from NYU, and I am a recognized registered dietitian. As a mom and a wife, I know it can be really, really difficult to provide healthy meals that are also convenient and affordable and don't take a lot of time to make. So with this resource, I really do hope to help families from all walks of life. So Shira, who is our moderator tonight, Shira Lazar is the founder and CEO of the Emmy-nominated digital media brand What's Trending. She hosts weekly Twitter Spaces shows Alpha Mondays, and Women in Web3 Weekly brings viewers the top 5 NFT stories of the week on Instagram, and just launched Inside Web3, airing weekly as a podcast on KNX News 91 FM in Los Angeles. While in quarantine, Shira launched Peace Inside Live, a wellness platform offering virtual classes, workshops, and retreats. PIL is working to make tools for well-being accessible for all via Web3 community experiences and innovative workplace programs. So all really, really cool stuff. So without further ado, Shira.
Hi, do you see me? Is this working? I'm
Yes,
so honored to be here with you here today. One, I love supporting nonprofits that make, living and tools for good living a possibility for everyone, not just those who have the privilege and access. I think it's really important that we use our expertise and our passions to bring that awareness to more communities. And so I really applaud you and what you're doing, Ariel. And
thank you.
And also, I grew up in Montreal, so I'm very used to cold weather, although I do live in LA where we are very cold today, but I'm not going to complain because our cold isn't really cold. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm getting too used to it. And so, yeah, I'm excited to learn myself. I need to be cooking more. I did a lot of that during COVID, and it seems like with the work and the busyness of life, it's easy just to forget or think things are harder than they are. And so how do you make the food that's healthy, make it so it lasts a long time, not waste food? These are things that I think about every day. So I'm partially, a student here, curious myself, and will be enjoying the information and taking it in today. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So we always we love for our moderators to be students and to ask questions, because you should be learning too, right? Everyone should be learning. I learn also when I put together these presentations. Um, so yeah, so we'll get started.
Yes. And I
We're
was
going
going
to
to
talk.
Ariel, I
Yeah.
was going to remind people that people could ask questions. We'll be going to your
Yes.
questions. This is a very open and chill
Perfect.
conversation for everyone.
Yes. So definitely, Cheryl will be on the lookout for questions. Please ask as we go on. I find some of these types of topics, we do get a lot of questions. People like to know, what you can switch out and, what's healthier, this, that. Ask whatever you want. As Shira said, it's really, casual conversation. So today we're going to talk about pantry staples. So foods to stock up on, canned and dried goods to prepare for colder months, freezer staples, seasonal produce, and warming foods. So foods that warm you from the inside out, which is a really, it's something just to make us feel good. And that's part of nutrition too, right? It's not only about what's good for our bodies, but what actually, and in terms of health, but what's making us feel good. And that is part of health and nutrition as well. So pantry staples. So canned goods. So they're convenient, they're readily available, and they have a long shelf life. They're affordable. They're offered at better prices than fresh alternatives. They're healthy. There are lower sodium options, and check for added sugar, right? We want to make sure we're getting lower sodium ones that, let's say we're getting fruit. We want to make sure it's in fruit in the juice and not in, syrup, things like that. But they are relatively healthy.
So canned goods, Ariel, is good, is okay. It doesn't, because I've heard that frozen or canned, sometimes it doesn't have the same amount of vitamins as it is raw.
So we will get to frozen. So you're right. Canned does not. Canned definitely loses some of its nutrients. That is for sure. But as it pertains to convenience and affordability, when we speak about those two really, really important factors, they are relatively healthy, right? We should not say, well, I can't afford fresh, and I can't find frozen, so forget about it. I'm not getting anything. And there are some options that are actually really good to have, like beans, I'm going to talk about, right? So chickpeas, kidney beans, black beans, these are really, really good options to have at home. They are much, much more convenient than the dried ones, right? Because the dried ones, there's a whole process. You have to soak them to kind of, bring them to life a little bit. And from a can, you drain, you pour out the liquid. We like to rinse it, right, to get some of the sodium off of that, and it's ready for use. So I'm not saying every vegetable and every fruit should be used as canned, but there are definitely good options for canned. And in terms of things being convenient and affordable, and just making sure we have things at home and we can use quickly, canned goods are great. So I don't want anybody to leave here saying, they're as good as the fresh produce, right? And even frozen actually, and we'll get to that again, is a better option than canned for the most part. But I don't want people thinking that canned equals bad, because they're not bad, and they serve a purpose.
Yeah, trust
There's
me.
a time
The past
and a
few
place
days,
for everything.
yeah, I've been having canned bean salad, so I
That's
am
great.
down. So when you're busy, it's the best thing, and just stock up on canned
Yes.
foods. So yes, continue, please.
100%. So vegetables, right? So green beans, carrots, corn, right? Canned corn. There's types of soups, canned soups that are good, or even if we're going to add that to a bigger soup that we're making, right? Again, that's going to help with affordability and convenience and things like that. And fish, right? Fish like tuna, salmon, sardines are great for you. Herring, mackerel, these are all things we can find in a can. These are great things to stock up on, to have at home. Really, really good options for us. And I don't want anybody to think that, otherwise. I think we have a question that came in. I'm not
Yes,
sure.
we
Okay.
have a question from an anonymous person. So, hey, anonymous, can you please post on social media better brands than others for canned goods? It is unclear what is healthy and what's not.
Yeah, we could do that. I think, I don't really like to talk about brands because, I'm not partnering with any brands and I don't like to specifically say which brands are better. But what I can do and what I've done, I think I've done in the past, and I'm happy to do again, is to talk about what are things we should be looking at, on the nutrition label when it comes to canned goods, right? So sodium is a big one, especially for those vegetables. We really, really want to try to find things that don't have sodium. And sometimes, what we're looking for doesn't come in a low sodium option. So what I would recommend doing is rinse it really, really well, because rinsing it will definitely get rid of a lot of the excess sodium. But I can definitely go through some of the canned some things to look for on a nutrition label for canned vegetables, and same thing, excuse me, for canned fruits, right? We want to make sure if we are getting canned fruits that it's in its own juices, it's not in the syrups as they've mentioned before. A lot of the times it will say in its own fruit syrup, but that's just a marketing thing to make you think that it's fresh, and it's not really. They're literally making syrup and putting it in there, and that's a lot of excess sugar that we don't need. Again, I'd still probably try to wash off fruit. Like, if you're eating it straight from the can, you're not going to wash off most of it because you lose the taste. But I think most people are not using canned fruits to just eat, for fun. Most people are using it for, if they're making a fruit soup or if they're making a smoothie or something like that, in which case, washing that off can also help take off some of that excess sugar that's there. But I'm definitely happy to do a post like that. And it's a very good idea. So thank you.
Yeah, getting ideas. That's just let us know what you need and we'll make it happen.
Exactly.
Ooh,
So
this was
a
one of my
tuna
favorites,
melt.
by the way, before I went vegetarian.
Absolutely one of my favorites before you went, oh, so now you don't have fish anymore, but that's okay. So cold weather staples. So this is one of those warming foods that just really make you feel good. It's a tuna melt, right? And it's like, unless you really just don't like tuna, you cannot like a tuna melt. It's so delicious. It's also a really great way to add in extra nutrients, let's say to a grilled cheese sandwich, right? And let's say, the cheeses, we're getting protein there, but adding the tuna, we're getting, you know, omega-3 fatty acids from the fish. So we're getting extra, good fat in there and extra protein. And it's a really, really, we're getting really good sources of nutrients, and it's also really delicious. So perfect for the cold weather season with more protein than is grilled cheese. Like I mentioned, it's filling, nutrient dense, and it is so delicious. So a really simple thing. This is a perfect dinner. It's a perfect lunch. It's easy. It's affordable. You can make tons of these for your family really quickly. You can do it in a grilled cheese maker, like a sandwich maker. You can do it on the stove. You can even do this in the oven. You can, do loads of, put on a baking sheet, some bread, some tuna and some cheese, or you can just melt the cheese in the oven, put the tuna on afterwards, the sandwich, make a sandwich, and it's so easy. So it's very versatile in how you're going to do it, and delicious.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry actually right now.
Yeah, so these are the ingredients. I know, by the way, same. These are the ingredients. The Greek yogurt I like to use as like a substitute for the mayo. You're welcome to use mayo. The Greek yogurt, especially if you add some of the mustard, it kind of cuts some of that like tartness. And it like masks some of that like Greeky flavor, if that's even the right term. It masks some of that, and it's a really good alternative to mayo, but it's totally fine to use mayo as well if that is what you prefer. So what are the health benefits here? So tuna is a great source of lean protein to promote fullness and steady blood sugar. Cheese contains calcium for strong bones. It also is a source of protein as well. Celery is rich in antioxidants that prevents chronic disease and is low in calories. And whole grain bread is a good, better option for bread, right? It contains fiber for gut health and bowel regularity. So we have tons of great health benefits here. It's super, super easy. It's filling. It's delicious. It's great for lunch. It's great for dinner. It's even good for a snack. So, it's a good way also to get your kids to eat tuna fish if your kids don't eat it, because you're adding the cheese to it, and it's a good way to kind of introduce that.
Yeah. And also if you're, we were talking about in preparing for this, like if you don't eat fish or vegetarian, like there's actually ways to make that fill, even though it's not going to have the same nutrients, but
Yeah, but
garbanzo
even the
beans, if you
taste.
crush it, like, isn't
Yeah.
that a way that people do faux tuna with
Yes.
garbanzo beans?
Yes, for sure. There's definitely a way to do that with beans. Most proteins, I'm not going to say most proteins, but a lot of proteins you can mimic the consistency, or like even just like kind of just like fill that craving, I guess, using beans. And garbanzo beans is definitely something people could use for that. And you can use some of those same fillings to kind of, add the celery and
Yeah.
and
Vegan
the
mayo.
mustard and the vegan
Mm,
mayo. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's really, really even like a vegan, yogurt, really, really great things to add. And adding that yogurt will also add some protein, even though the garbanzo beans do have protein. Adding some of the yogurt will actually probably make it a complete protein. So it's a really great way to kind of add a little bit more protein to that as well. So cold, okay. So soups and chilies, these are just different ways that we can use canned goods, right? So black bean soup, split pea soup, right? Tomato soup, chicken soup, chicken soup, matzo ball soup, turkey chili. These are all just really, really easy ways that use tons and tons of canned goods. And you can make whole meals, right? Tomato soup, turkey chili. I'm thinking you can use beans, you can use corn, you use tomato sauce in a can. So many canned ingredients. Super, super easy. You can do a vegetarian chili as well. And just really healthy, very nutrient dense and hearty meals that we can make using canned goods.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could also, these are come in soups too, in cans, not just like taking the raw, like doing it yourself, obviously from
Yeah.
scratch.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, a lot of these come by itself,
Yeah.
like in the can. So exactly. I
Yeah.
usually like to doctor them up a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely if you're looking for something really quick, especially tomato soup. I mean, they make delicious tomato soups in a can, which is fine. But yeah, so all really good options. So now we're getting to dried goods. So dried goods, again, they're very, very convenient, right? They're readily available. They have a very long shelf life, affordable, get lower prices when buying in bulk, right? Dried goods is notorious for, deals when buying in bulk. Healthy, opt for whole grains, no added sugar, whole grains, rice, oats, quinoa, hot cereals, pasta, nuts and seeds. So nut butters, almonds, sunflower seeds, oils and vinegars, olive oil, avocado oil, red wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar. All of these are considered dried goods and are, shelf stable and convenient and things like
It's
that.
almost like we need to just put these on our list of things to have no matter what, right? Obviously they're good for the cold weather, but like these are just the basics.
Oh, for sure.
If
Yeah.
you don't have fresh food, that these are still healthy and good.
Yeah. I think these are like, right. I think what you're like, these are just good things to have at home. And then we're going into like, now we're going into like, well, how can we use some of these staples? How can we use some of these staples to make these like warming foods? But yeah, I do agree. I think these are staples to have at home for good. But like things like beans, lentils, like obviously we eat those all year round. But like when I think of beans and lentils, I think of like a hearty soup for the winter. And that's just what comes to mind for me. So I definitely think like I'd probably have in chilies, like I'd probably have that more in the winter than I would necessarily in the hotter months. But obviously to each his own, and these are good things to have all of the time if it's what your family is eating. So here's an example of a recipe that uses some of these dried goods. So PB&J oatmeal, right? Such a simple breakfast, also a really good snack. It's just you're using oats, and then you're using ingredients like peanut butter and jelly, and that is it. It is so simple. It's so easy, but it's delicious. It's really delicious.
I've never tried this.
I absolutely um, love oatmeal with peanut butter. It's probably one of my favorite breakfasts. I don't have it so often, but it's delicious. And jelly, you can definitely use like jelly or jam from your fridge, but it's also really easy to make your own like fruit compote. So you can take your own berries, right? You can even use frozen berries for this. It's just a really great thing to use it for. Take like frozen blueberries and raspberries or strawberries or a mix of all of them. Kind of let it sit over the stove, add a tiny bit of sugar just to kind of bring out the sweetness a little bit, or even honey or maple syrup, something to just bring out the sweetness. And then make it into like kind of like a syrup, like a compote, and you can keep that in the fridge for like a week. And that's also a really great thing. And you're not adding as much sugar as, let's say, a jam or a jelly probably has from the jar that we're buying at the store. So it's a really great thing to add to oatmeals and yogurts and really any other sort of breakfast thing or any sort of snack thing.
So yummy. Yeah, like I'm usually a honey maple syrup type of person, but I definitely need to try this.
It's
It just sounds, and it
delicious.
also adds a lot of protein to it.
Yes. Oh yeah, the peanut butter, it's like it jumps up in protein. Just from the peanut butter. And listen, like I find breakfast foods are actually pretty hard to get protein in. So I'm all about trying to find ways, and especially oatmeal, right? We're getting a little bit of protein from the oats, but we're not getting enough. We're not getting a complete protein. So adding in the peanut butter is a great way to do that. So the health benefits. So oats are a great source of whole grains that contains fiber for bowel health. Peanut butter contains plant-based protein and healthy fats for fullness. Honey is rich in antioxidants that prevent chronic disease and lower inflammation. And jam, especially, that contains no added sugar, is great alternative to most brands and is delicious, which is really why I recommend. I'm not saying make your own jam at home, but just making like that compote is a really good option. It's a good alternative to a jam. Jam's a little bit more of a complicated process, so I'm definitely not going out there telling everybody to make their own jam. But really just putting some of those frozen berries over the stove and kind of letting them sit for a little bit is a really easy way. And it's a great alternative to, store-bought jam, and stays in the refrigerator for a long time as well.
Yeah. Oh, why buy it when
Oops,
you can
sorry.
make it, or just use leftover stuff? Like how many times do we have leftover like berries that go bad really quickly?
Yes. Yeah. So like even berries that are going bad, like those are great things to use for like putting over the stove. Exactly. Like there's no real, like obviously if there's molds on the strawberry, we're not going to use that. But like if it's getting a little mushy and you're like, yeah, this probably won't last another day, throw it over the stove and make something, make something out of that. So all really good options.
What is this?
Okay.
So this is the using the dried goods. These are all the options.
So
We
using,
talked about the
yeah, so these
oatmeal,
are
obviously.
all things that, right, we spoke about oatmeal, right? So we spoke about like hot cereal. There's all million types of hot cereals, right? There's grits, there's like wheatina, things like that. Use different types of grains. But all, hot cereals are really such filling, such filling breakfast, and they're great vehicles for adding things to, right? Like you said before, like adding the peanut butter is a great way to add protein. It's a great way to add, chia seeds, which is a healthy fat, flax seeds, which is a healthy fat, obviously fruit, peanut butter, like we mentioned. It's a great vehicle for adding things because there's a lot of hot cereals don't have so much taste. So a lot of the time we do want to add more to it. And we do want to add more nutrients to it. So I'm a really big proponent of that. Obviously casseroles are really easy way to add, to use dried goods, noodle soups, hot coffee, hot chocolate, roasted nuts. Roasted nuts are also a great snack. They're a great topping for, salads. They're a great topping for, any sort of meal that you want. Great thing to keep in our freezer. They last a really long time in the freezer. So all really great things to do with dried goods.
Amazing. Yeah. All right. So now we're going to the freezer stuff, the stuff we keep in
Now
the
we're talking about
freezer.
freezer. Yes.
Okay.
So you mentioned before, that you've heard that things, frozen vegetables or frozen fruit don't have as much nutrients. So actually, sometimes frozen fruits and vegetables actually have more nutrients than fresh, or I'm not going to say more, but I will say equal to, because they're actually frozen at peak ripeness. So they actually do maintain a lot of those nutrients in the fruits and vegetables. Frozen fruits and vegetables are a great option, and they get a really bad rep. And I'm really trying to change that. And there's a lot of people in the nutrition world out there that are trying to change that, because they are so incredibly affordable for the most part, and they are extremely convenient. And we're out there trying to get people to eat more fruits and vegetables. And a lot of the time the excuse is, well, it's expensive and this and that. And that is true. That is totally true for fresh produce. There are a lot of times it is just very expensive. But frozen produce is a great option. So again, it's convenient, it's affordable, it's healthy. Fruits, things like bananas, berries, mango, cherries, pineapple, vegetables, broccoli, spinach, kale, peas, mushroom, corn, carrots. Those are all really great options. Proteins, right? Cooked or raw chicken, steak, fish, some of those veggie burgers, right? Like, I don't, again, like to mention brands, but like Dr. Praeger's, for example, that's one brand that I actually am a really big proponent of, because the ingredients are pretty good. Like they're
really?
very good, actually. They're very good. You can read all of them, you know what all of them are. There's not a long list of ingredients. Sometimes you see these veggie burgers with like a list of ingredients like this big, and you don't know what half the words are. But Dr. Praeger's pretty clean. And I really like that option a lot. So
what do you have to look out for? Like, just like canned goods, like what do you have to look out for that makes sense, that's healthy versus unhealthy when it comes to frozen foods? Because I feel like, is all frozen food okay or good? Or
so for fruits and vegetables, generally you're okay. One thing you'll find in a lot of, like, let's say like frozen dinners, that kind of stuff, you'll find it's the only thing we'll still find trans fat in, and trans fat is like something that we should just not be eating. You're not going to find it so much anymore just in regular foods in the grocery store, but there are sometimes you will still find it in frozen meals. I'm not going to say like frozen whole foods. You won't find it in whole foods, but sometimes in some of these TV dinners, right? Like they like to call these frozen TV dinners. Sometimes you will still find that. Sometimes you will still see really long ingredient lists. If you don't understand majority of the ingredients and you don't know what they are, I would not buy it. And that goes for everything. But especially, or, in addition, that goes to also, frozen foods. So when it comes to like frozen fruits and vegetables, like whole foods, as I mentioned, there's nothing really that they're adding that I would say no. It's usually just the fruit or the vegetable. But some of these made meals already, I would definitely, like I said, look for trans fat and make sure that the list of ingredients are not, really impossible things that you have no idea what they are.
And I know I look out for this when I'm eating something that's plant-based or quote unquote vegan. It's just making sure the sodium isn't high, because like you think it's healthy, but doesn't mean it's healthy, right? Like what is like a healthy amount of sodium even?
So it really depends on each person. The USDA recommends like below, and I could be wrong about this. I think it's below 2 grams per day, or like 2,300 milligrams per day. And I could be messing up on that number. but it's really easy to find out. But there is a recommendation to stay below that. Most people, especially in this country, are getting above that. Most people that don't have high blood pressure and things and different, comorbidities that are, dependent on sodium, on like sodium numbers and things like that, don't have to worry so much about that. So I wouldn't really tell somebody who has like
Yeah.
really no health issues to really focus on their sodium. But I would say like, nobody should like have an excessive amount of sodium,
Yeah.
but especially somebody who does have high blood pressure, who has to watch their sodium for whatever reason, whether it be kidney disease or whatever it is, I would probably tell them to, to definitely watch those recommendations. And to look at sodium, like as one of the number one things they're looking for on a nutrition label. But
Mhm.
for somebody who doesn't have these diseases or comorbidities, I would not say that's the first thing to look at.
So we do have a question. Someone
Mhm.
says, I love freezing fruit that's going bad. How do you feel about that from a nutrition standpoint? Or I would,
I think
yeah,
it's
or even
great.
veggies. Yeah.
I think it's really, really great. From a nutrition standpoint, we're probably losing some nutrients just because it's probably getting more ripe and ripe. And as things do get more ripe, sometimes they are losing some of the nutrition some of the nutrients, but not enough to say you're getting no nutrients from it. You're losing a certain percentage of the nutrients, not a ton. I think it's a great option to freeze fruit that's going bad. It's great to use for smoothies, for baked goods, things like that. So I think that's a great idea.
Amazing. Let's go to the next part of this. You, of course, are you have more control than I do over this.
Okay. Okay, got it. All right. Bulk cooking.
Oh,
So cooking larger portions of food is a great way to prepare meals for the coming months. After eating a meal, pack leftovers in smaller containers and store in the freezer. This practice not only minimizes waste, but also saves time and money. So definitely bulk cooking is a great thing to do, right? You're making, like I'll make, for example, when I make a soup, or my husband makes a soup, we make a big pot of soup. We'll keep a container in the fridge and then we put like 3 or 4 containers in the freezer and it lasts us probably 3 months,
wow. How
depending on what type
long?
of soup it is.
Yeah. How long
But
are they actually good for?
I would probably not keep it more than, I think they'd probably be okay for 6 months. I'd probably say definitely
Got it.
not more than that. Yeah. Um, you might have some freezer burn by then, but it should be okay to eat. But I love, bulk cooking, also sauces, right? Making a tomato sauce, making some sort of meat sauce, making some sort of chili. These are all things that freeze really, really well. Making a ziti or a lasagna, like anything like that. These are great, great things to make a lot of and to freeze. Obviously, not everyone has, so much freezer space that they can just do this for everything. So do this for things that make sense for your family, right? I wouldn't say let's batch cook every single thing and put everything in the freezer because most people don't have space for that. I definitely don't. But things that really are like things that your family looks for, right? Like soups, for example, is something that we definitely look for, to just heat up quickly to like either add to a dinner or for a lunch. So those are things we like to have in the freezer. So that's worth it to us to kind of take up some space.
How much time do you need to put aside to do these things? That's always the thing that stops me from bulk
So
cooking
yeah, so
sometimes.
listen, like these are things that like you do when you have time. Right? Let's say there's a Sunday morning and you're just like, you know what, I have 6 hours right now, and I could watch TV or I could just like make a bunch of stuff, put some in the fridge for this week, and then put some in the freezer for next week or in 2 weeks from now, because I know in 2 weeks from now I have a ton going on, right? Like my kids have doctor's appointments and I have this stuff going on at work, and it's really about like when you have the time to do it, do it. If you know you're going to have the time to do it, right? If you don't have the time to do it, that's fine. It's not necessary, but if you do have the time to do it, it's definitely it's definitely recommended.
Amazing. If anyone here does this, I am very jealous of you. Please let us know if you've found the way to bulk cook
Yes.
or prep your meals. Meal prep too. It's one of those things like it's always a dream and an aspiration, but I totally agree.
Yes.
Like it would save
But
me a ton of time and money.
But I've spoken a lot about meal prep, and I've spoken about it in past webinars. And what I really say to everybody is that meal prep can look so different for every person, right? For one person, it can be preparing literally, every single meal for the week and putting in the fridge and freezer and whatever it is. Or it can be just chopping up vegetables and putting that in the fridge so it's easier and more convenient for you to snack on them, or to make yourself a salad, or to, put them in the oven to roast them for dinner. So meal prep can look really, really different. It doesn't necessarily need to be one definition word. It can mean a million different things to a million different people. So I really like to let people know that, because I think like people get so intimidated by this word of like meal prepping, and they think everything has to be done, and it makes them seem like this like type A, like super organized person. But it doesn't necessarily need to be that, right? Just chopping up some peppers and cucumbers and tomatoes so that you have that it's easier for you to snack on. You can throw it into a salad. That is meal prep.
We have a question. How long can you save leftovers in the fridge for? I know you answered in the
so
freezer.
I really probably wouldn't keep leftovers in a fridge more than like 3 or 4 days. I would say that's probably the shelf life for refrigerator leftovers.
Got it. All right, let's continue on with this
Okay, so this kind of goes to what I was saying before. So meals that freeze and reheat well, right? Meatloaf. So anything with like a ground beef or a ground, poultry or something like that. Those freeze phenomenally. A pasta dish, any sort of soup or, a sauce, chilies and stews. Breakfast foods really freeze well, right? Like frozen waffles, for example, we see all the time in the supermarket. Making, let's say you make pancakes for your family, right? And then you have time, you make a bunch of them, keep some in the refrigerator and then put the rest in the freezer. Desserts, these are all things that really do freeze and reheat very, very well. Bread also, freezes really, really well.
That's is there like, how do we know what freezes well and not? Because I feel like it seems so basic. Like for me, I'm like, how did I grow up? I love you, Mom, but you did not teach me. So thank you.
There really might be a science behind it. I'm not sure the answers to that. It's a good question. But anything that's very liquidy, for example, wouldn't freeze well, right? Like vegetables wouldn't really freeze well. There's too much liquid in vegetables, like fruits also. There's too much liquid in like a produce that it probably just wouldn't freeze well. Like fruits, for example, like berries and that kind of stuff that you're putting into like a smoothie is time, but like an apple, an orange, things like that, they're probably not freezing great. But these particular ones that are mentioned on this slide are definitely good freezer options. But that's a good question, because I don't know. There may be a science behind it. There may not be.
This is helpful. Those pictures. Sometimes you need pictures like in a menu to understand what to do.
I agree. Okay, seasonal produce. So winter fruits and vegetables are cold weather staples. So seasonal eating. So eating fruits and vegetables according to the season and weather conditions they naturally grow in. So that's the definition. And focusing on fruit available in your state and or local to your area, right? So when you hear the term local or organic, that's typically what that means. So the benefits. So actually, a lot of people think that like eating seasonally and local is more expensive. It happens to be like in this country that sometimes is the case.
Capitalism.
But actually in most countries, it's more affordable to eat, in season. If you go to really a lot of other countries that don't import as much or at all, eating seasonal, that is what is affordable. Anything that comes in is actually not.
And how do you know, Ariel, like what is seasonal and not, like, you might think, oh, I don't know, certain fruits and vegetables just aren't, yeah, like, I guess if you are eating local or shopping local, if you have farmers markets or stores, unfortunately,
Yeah,
there
like if
are
you're
so
going to
many.
farmers markets and things like that,
Yeah.
usually are a lot of supermarkets will label that as well, like
Okay.
that these are things that are in season, seasonal eating. Typically, in the winter, we were like just like in apple season, right? Which kind of is still going on, but we're seeing a lot of like citrus fruits. Citrus fruits is a huge winter.
Okay.
You'll probably see a lot of the like sumo oranges now, and just oranges are delicious right now, and lemons and limes, that's in season. A lot of that's in season right now. A lot of it kind of like also shifts and change, so um there's no like definite list. It's a really easy Google search. A lot of supermarkets will also determine and let you know which and label which ones are in season. So take a look at that. But especially if you are going to a farmer's market also, you will find that a lot of the times the things that are in season are generally affordable. So if you do have a farmer's market near you, I would definitely take a look and go there
And
if you're looking for in season affordable produce.
yeah. And what sucks is there are food deserts. Unfortunately, there are communities that don't have access to fresh food. Like,
Yeah.
in that way, what's to be done? Is it just, yeah, I
Yes.
guess the canned options, et cetera,
Canned
are
and
best.
yes,
And
and
yeah.
frozen. But especially in New York City, they do a ton of work. There are a ton of nonprofits that do a ton of work to bring these farmer stands, like let's say it's every Friday or it's once a month or twice a month, to these food deserts, and give out little vouchers to help them buy some of some of this produce that's in season. And there's a lot of work that's been done, and obviously there's a lot of work to be done. But they've made tremendous strides. And it's an all year thing. It's it used to be just in the spring and the summer, and now it's just all year things, and it's really really amazing because it's allowing some of the seasonal produce to really be accessible to more people, which it really should be. It should be accessible to everybody, and unfortunately, it's not the case. But it's definitely allowing. Some of these organizations are doing incredible work in allowing for that. So I think there's, like I said, there's a lot of work to be done, and if it's not available, frozen is a really great option. But if some of these farmers markets do come to these neighborhoods that are considered to be food deserts, definitely go and take a look.
Shop local if you can.
Yes.
Definitely.
They have a better taste and texture. They do have higher nutritional content, and it also helps the environment, right? Eating locally reduces our carbon footprint and the amount of greenhouse gas emissions. So, butternut squash is probably um, definitely my favorite squash. It's widely available in the fall and winter, right? We can find it really all over the place right now. And squash we can find pretty cheap right now. It has a mild sweet flavor, similar to like sweet potatoes, but I think it's actually even more mild. This vegetable is nutrient dense, and it contains a pigment that we've spoken about in the past that's called beta carotene. It's an antioxidant that prevents free radical damage. It's good for our eyes. Beta carotene, like we find in carrots and melon and things like that, these are all good for our eyes. Cranberries. So while cranberry juice is high in sugar, fresh cranberries are actually very tart and very low in sugar. Has tons of fiber. So this winter holiday staple is used in drinks. We can use it in desserts, side dishes, and the deep red pigment means it's rich in antioxidants that also, can help prevent chronic diseases. Collard greens are hearty and healthy. They're very low in calorie, which can be helpful for weight management. They also have a ton of fiber, also very helpful in weight management. These leafy greens contain, like I said, insoluble fiber, which aids digestion and promotes the growth of healthy gut bacteria. So collard greens are a pretty difficult thing to use raw. I actually did a cooking for one of the organizations that I work with. I did, they gave out food bags to their community, they're the
Yeah.
members of their community. And so they gave me a bag and I came up with recipes using some of the ingredients, and I tried to use collard greens raw. And so, if somebody has a great recipe for me, I would love to see it, because I really wanted to try to use it raw, because the other person who I was working with, she was cooking them. So I said, all right, let me see if I could do something raw. So I tried to do a slaw. We had some cabbage also. So I tried to do a slaw. I tried to, cut it really, really thin so that, it would maybe not be as strong a taste. I think it definitely helped. And then I put some apple cider vinegar and I kind of masked some of the flavor, and it wasn't really horrible, but you still kind of had that like bitter taste. But cooked collard greens are delicious. I also love using collard greens in a soup or a stew or a sauce and things like that. There's
Or
so
just
many
like as a
great nutrients.
side, with like the
Yeah,
right
even
spices
sauteing
and
it. Yeah, even
sauces, like
sauteing
yeah, I've
so
had it that
delicious.
way.
Really delicious. But I still can't figure out how to use it raw. But if anybody has any recommendations, I'm all ears. So with
Oh,
the
that looks
roasted
good.
winter medley. So this is also such a delicious side dish for dinner. It's simple, it's easy to prepare. It uses a lot of those ingredients we just spoke about. It's also really festive looking. It's great for the holidays coming up. So it uses butternut squash, cranberries, collard greens, a little bit of cinnamon, oil, salt, and pepper. Butternut squash, it contains vitamin A, it contains these beta carotenes, which is good for vision. Cranberries are low in sugar. They're also high in vitamin C. So everyone's looking for some more vitamin C right now. And collard greens are rich in potassium for blood health. They also have fiber. So tons of great nutrients.
That is
So
a
now
good dish. Can you freeze that also afterwards? Or
I
no?
probably wouldn't.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't. I would think that's probably one of those foods that probably wouldn't reheat
You have
so
to
well.
eat
I
it
think a lot
fresh
of
to
those,
get it
you
done
could eat
and
it fresh. You could
fresh.
probably put it in the fridge and then
Yeah.
it would reheat fine. But I think in the freezer, a lot of the liquid would come out and it wouldn't.
Anyway.
It would get very wilty and not such a great
good.
freezer friendly food. But yeah, it looks delicious. Warming foods that warm you from the inside out. So healthy foods to keep you warm. When the temperatures drop and when cold weather sets in, different foods can help raise your body temperature and keep you feeling warm. So, it's something that we talk about, but it's actually a true thing, right? There are just certain foods that really just do warm us. These foods promote thermogenesis, the process of producing body heat caused by digesting food. So holiday spices, right? Like when we think of cinnamon and nutmeg and clove, these are really popular during the holiday season. And it really is that for a reason, because they increase blood flow, which increases body temperature. And we can incorporate these festive spices into drinks and desserts during the winter month, right? So we always see like cinnamon and nutmeg and like they're here for a reason, but it's really because they actually do warm us. They have these properties that help warm us.
I didn't know that actually. I thought you meant something that's hot that you have that.
Well, yeah, like I think it's part of that too, but there's definitely a big component of that too. But I think definitely there's actually a component to it that is pretty warming. So ginger root increases blood circulation, which warms you up. Ginger is also great for digestion, stomach aches, and alleviating nausea. Yes. Bananas. The thyroid and adrenal glands help to regulate the body temperature. Both need vitamin B and magnesium to function properly, and bananas provide a good amount of these micronutrients. So bananas are great for the winter warming months. Coffee. So not only is
having
coffee
some
actually
now
warming
at almost 5 p.m. I have some holiday parties tonight.
Okay, good. You gotta stay up. So the caffeine found in coffee can actually increase the metabolism and raise body temperature. You can get your morning energy boost while warming up in the cold weather, right? So it's actually is warming. Like it's, who doesn't love like a hot cup of coffee in the morning? But it actually can raise your body temperature. So red meat. So, red meat's one of those things we do want in moderation. But having summery meat is really good for us, right? There's iron, and that's a mineral that helps carry oxygen throughout the body. And carrying the oxygen throughout the body is obviously keeping our blood healthy. It helps keep us warm, right? When we don't have enough oxygen, let's say that comes to our hands or our toes, we get cold. So for this reason, eating red meat can prevent cold hands and feet. And that is really it. So thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Thank
Shira.
you. Well, thanks for having me. I feel like I learned a
Um,
lot. Now I have to actually make things, or else
Yes.
I got to do something with
Yeah.
this information.
After your holiday parties.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you for having me and for
Yeah,
all the
no
work you're doing. And
problem.
thanks to everyone for showing up and for the great questions. And if anyone's
Yes.
watching on demand too, yeah, we appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night and happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays. Thanks again. Hope to see you on the East Coast soon.
Yes.
All
Bye.
right, bye.